Hello, and welcome to our exclusive webinar on Let's Go to Portugal, the power of a Portuguese passport. My name is Afsana Rahim Lakhani, signing in from Lisboa. I am the moderator for today's evening. We at the Lakhani Group invest in real estate and our focus service family office dedicated in embracing values, bringing shared wealth for the beneficiaries. Before we dive into our webinar, let me do a quick temperature check. We will request you all to turn your audio when not speaking and keep your videos on to all the panelists. Kindly keep your phone on silent mode to get most out of this webinar. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type in the chat. We will have time for the questions towards the end of the webinar. So let us start with our webinar by watching a beautiful video on Portugal. Rahim, we can't hear the audio of the video. We're not able to hear the audio, but the video looks beautiful.
Capital, Lisboa transforms ecological concerns into reality, being the first European city to have a municipal fleet where 100% of light vehicles are electric, a huge recharging network with more than 540 stations, and 100% of the city lights running with LED technology. Innovation and adaptation are part of the mindset, with 90 colleges that produce 30,000 graduates a year, with 60% of them in business, tech or math degrees. No wonder Lisboa attracts global investment around the globe into our entrepreneurial community, an ecosystem dedicated to helping new businesses where 2 new startups are created every day. With more than 100 co-working spaces spread all over Lisboa and with a 90-kilometer bike lane that reaches all corners of the city. It's so easy to enjoy the view commuting to work using one of the 2,150 shared bikes and 5,500 soft mobility vehicles. How about this? Lisboa is well known as a city that embraces diversity and welcomes all kinds of races, ethnicities, and religious beliefs. All that in a city with 7 Michelin-starred restaurants, and this sunset included. So, how about investing in Lisboa? Lisboa, the beautiful side of business.
Wow, amazing. As Portugal embraces so much of diversity, we have diverse speakers in our webinar today. We'll be talking about Portugal Golden Visa and Fund. The first panelist is Sandra Fernandez, who is a lawyer and head of immigration department specialized in immigration and foreign investment focused on real estate and tourism sectors at VCA law firm. Sandra also plays the role of GVC, Golden Visa Consultant. Sandra has vast experience in real estate law, particularly in areas of civil construction, financing operations, and real estate investment and tourism investment operations involving complex negotiation and corporate law. I would like to welcome Sandra on board. The forum is all yours.
Hello. Thank you for the invitation and for being here. It's my pleasure to be part of this panel. Yes, my background was actually in real estate, as you've mentioned, and in corporate, but when the Golden Visa law was in place, I just moved to, and it was immediately after the crisis and still in financial crisis. And it was, as you know, Golden Visa was created to attract foreign investment in a way, to help Portugal get out of the financial crisis. And that's how I came into the immigration. So that I had already, and I have 30 years of real estate law in my practice and corporate law. So immigration, I started in 2013 with Golden Visa. with the golden visa clients, and the first one was actually from China, living in Sweden in 2013 at the beginning, and I've been, responsible and for more thousands, several hundreds for sure, and more than 1,000 applications throughout this time. Since 2018, I've been appointed as the head of the immigration department at VCA law firm, and we are a team now of 14 people only in immigration. We have different desks. One of the desks is immigration, one investment, and one is the other immigration programs. We've been, and thank you for the invitation. That's why I'm here. Would you? I don't know if you would like me to go over the different questions.
Yeah, actually, we do have some slides and some questions. Actually, if you could actually even go ahead and maybe talk about just the golden visa qualifications, actually, Sandra, as it's presented.
So the golden visa qualification. Okay. So the golden visa is all about golden visa, as you know, is an investment, is a residency, by investment program. It's if there are different investment routes that are eligible for the golden visa. The wonderful part of it is that the minimum stay in Portugal is only 14 days in each 2-year period. So what is important is to choose investment route. And once the investment route is chosen, we will be able to, and of course, and pay for the minimum amount. Then we will be able to proceed proceed with the golden visa application, with the residency. And how does it work? We always have to start by opening a bank account in Portugal. So when the client comes to us and he wants us to represent the client, we need to start with a bank account opening. That will be the first thing that we will do, and create a tax number in Portugal that will be mandatory for the bank account, for the investment, and for the immigration process. So as soon as we have the bank account open, the client will be able to send the money from abroad to the Portuguese bank account. And this is important for compliance reasons and anti-laundering. So the bank here is very important exactly for that purpose. And as soon as the money is in Portugal and the investment is chosen by our client, then we will proceed, of course, with all the documents that are related to the investment. And from there onwards, as soon as we have everything ready and the money is transferred to the seller, we will be able then to start the application. But for that purpose, besides the investment documentation, of course, we need personal documentation at that point in order to proceed with the application. I don't know, I was now seeing the slide, and the slide is about what is different in our country in terms of the golden visa process compared to other immigration programs, similar immigration programs based on investment in European countries, is basically, I think the most important thing is that the minimum stay, as I said, is 14 days in each 2-year period, and it's the ultimate goal, or I would say that 98%, 99%, if not 100, and it's not 100 because some of them cannot apply for a passport. So the majority of the applicants, the main goal is applying for citizenship and get a Portuguese passport. And in order to do so, if they follow the golden visa route, in order to get the citizenship, they will do this minimum stay of 14 days in each 2-year period, and after 5 years, they are eligible for the citizenship application without actually having lived in Portugal. Of course, it's all about ties to the Portuguese community, but everything they need is ties. I mean, bank account opening, tax number in Portugal, investment in Portugal, and if they pass A2 level Portuguese exam, which is quite basic, the second lowest foreign language level, they will then they are eligible for the citizenship, which in general is taking more or less 2 years to get it approved and then the passport issued. So if you compare our program with other countries, I'm thinking about Spain now, who is completely different. So it's, for us, the eligibility is 5 years. So with only that minimum stay, and in Spain it's after 10 years, and they have a minimum stay completely different after the residency program is the temporary residency program stops, and they start with a permanent residency. They need to be much more time in Spain in order to be eligible for the passport. And there is another important aspect when we compare to Spain, is that Spain only allows dual citizenship. Portugal allows multiple citizenship, and that is very important. Most of the applicants, they want to keep their own passports. And I would say not only the time frame, but ultimately also the fact that they cannot keep their own citizenship is a major factor and differentiator related to when we compare to Portugal. There are other European programs, but all of them have much more complicated rules to get to citizenship, and in terms of time to get it, minimum stay, etc., completely different and much more. So in that regard, we are definitely the best program in order to get that goal, which is the citizenship. Now, the process of the immigration, and I'm sorry because I started a little bit earlier, but I'll go back to it. So I was talking about the process of getting the golden visa. So it starts, as I said, with the bank account open, bank and tax number creation, choosing the investment route, get all the documentation related to the investment, then get all the personal documentation. When we talk about personal documentation, it's criminal reports for those who are 16 or older, and this is, I'm including the family members, of course, because it's the main applicant plus the family. All of them, we will need criminal reports for all of them. For the main applicant is only from the country of residency, the previous year residency. For all the family members, we also need from their origin, from their citizenship country, if they are not residing in that country. If they are not citizens of the country where they are residing. And for other family members, we will need a marriage certificate, of course, because we need to prove the ties, the family ties, to prove family unification. So that, of course, is marriage certificates and the birth certificates of the children, and it also birth certificate of the main applicant or spouse when we're talking about parents that are joining the main applicant. We need to prove the family tie as well. So when we have the documentation both from the main applicant and family, we start the application. I'm talking, well, it's not mandatory to start the family unification at the same moment, but the great majority of our clients, they want to start all at the same time. So the main applicant, we start with the main applicant, and the minute we submit on the platform for validation, we submit the documents for validation on the platform. We pay the analysis fees. Immediately after, we will be able to submit all the family members as well. It usually takes around 2 to 3 months to get the documents that we submit on the platform validated by the immigration department. And after that, only after the validation, we will be able to get to the second stage of the procedure, which is getting the biometrics done, deliver the original of the documents that were first submitted on the platform, and then wait for the final approval and the issue of the resident permit. Since we started working with the platform, we used to have access after validation to an agenda and be able to book the biometrics for our clients. But after COVID, and because of all the lockdown, a lot of biometric appointments were canceled. They stopped doing during many months, and when they restarted, they did it very just a few per day, again because of the COVID situation. So that created a problem. The waiting list that was incredible. So, and we were not. I mean, the agendas were not open, so we could not book the biometrics for all those new clients that were getting the validation. So after the 20th, around 20th December last year, the immigration decided to change, and they notified the representatives, the lawyers, to start booking the biometrics for our clients, and they followed what they're doing. They are following the validation date, and they started back. The first ones were they were validated by the end of 2019, just before a few months, 2-3 months before the lockdown. So we had clients still waiting from that moment since 2019, and they were very quick, notifying us. The last notifications that we received from immigration were around 15th or 20th January, and they were more or less in summer 2021. So that's from summer 2021, we are still waiting for the notifications, to open at any moment for the clients that have been validated since more or less in summer 2021 until now. And then, as I said, and the average time has been, and after doing the biometrics, the average time in most of the immigration departments, staff departments in Portugal, and even in Madeira and Azores, and the average time is 4 to 5 months after the biometrics. It was not the average time in Lisbon, particularly in Lisbon and in Porto as well, big cities. Lisbon was taking it much longer, but because they reduced a lot the number of biometrics that they were doing, the average until this wave of notification was the same as the whole country of those who did the biometrics, 4 to 5 months. Nowadays, we don't know, because of this wave of notifications, if Lisbon will be again taking longer after the biometrics are done. Something we still don't know. We'll see. But we had to book for our clients all over Portugal to do the biometrics, depending where they were open and the vacancies that existed. So that's what we are doing now. And so as I said, the average time should be around 4 to 5 months after biometrics. The final approval will be done, and the resident permit will be issued for 2 years, and will be then renewed for another 2 and renewed for another 2. The program at the beginning was for 5 years. This temporary resident permit, which is known as a golden visa based on investment, was created for 5 years, but in 2020 it changed to 6 years. But then again, after 5, it's possible to apply for citizenship and for permanent residency based on investment. The permanent residency, and this is an important aspect that I would like to highlight here, is that it was created only in 2018. The permanent residency based on investment is different from the permanent residency, from all the other immigration programs, because when it's based on investment, there's no minimum stay in Portugal at all during those 5 years. And the fact that the applicant gets a permanent residence in Portugal, in the European Union country, that will mean that he will get also a long duration status in a European Union country, and he can move to another European Union country and work there and live there without having the passport. And this is important for some applicants that are not that will not apply for our passport because their own original countries don't allow dual citizenship, and that happens.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Sandra, for enlightening us with the golden visa process. It looks simple here, but I'm sure it is comprehensive in its own ways. There was one question that we have been ongoingly being asked about, that what is the stage where the funds are being transferred? At what stage?
Oh, yeah, the stage, I always explain to clients, of course, you need to choose the investment or you need to pay for the investment, it has to do. So we always, that's why I said, we always start by assisting clients opening bank accounts By the way, we assist clients opening bank accounts remotely. They don't have to, to come to Portugal for that purpose. And we do it. We create a tax number. We assist opening bank accounts remotely, exactly for, allow them to transfer the money from abroad to their Portuguese bank account, because only from the Portuguese bank account they will be able to then pay their investment and proceed with the application, of course.
Okay. I think there's another interesting question from Philippa here, who is asking, is it possible to transfer the funds directly in the lawyer's account instead of the person's, the applicant's?
I always advise, please don't do that. Why? Because there's a problem, there's a compliance problem, anti-laundering, as I said, and only we in our case, we only had at the beginning 1 or 2 situations that we had to follow that. But in order to do so, first of all, the origin account has to be a personal account. And we need to prove that our compliance from our law firm did the compliance work on that money when the money came into the law firm. But it's not very clear. And there are many inspectors that don't even like it. I don't really recommend. I really don't recommend. I'm very strict on that matter, because it's clear on the law that you need to have a report. The applicant has to have a Portuguese bank account, has to go through the compliance personally as well. It's not only the origin of the funds, it's him, that client personally. We don't have the means at our law firm. We don't have the means to have access to that client as the bank has, in terms of access of international information to the clients, to do the compliance as it should be done. So it's super risky for a law firm to do that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Sandra. I think this clarifies a lot of doubts that the people would have and the audience are sharing. So thank you so much for being with us. We loved talking to you and listening to you. So thank you so much. Let's move our guests towards another dynamic personality in the room. So we have Achille Simo, who is a real estate agent, who is a in the Coldwell Banker City, is highly motivated, dedicated to the sale, development, and management of diversified real estate. Achille took her first strides in real estate industry some years ago by accompanying investors and reformers in Lisbon, Algarve, and Setúbal. Achille's goal is to provide each property owner with greatest possible return on their investment. At the same time, they work to build long-term relationship with the property owners and the tenants. So now, without further ado, we will take our time towards Achille and her presentation. Thank you so much.
I don't know if you can, yeah. Yes. So thank you so much for the introduction. My name is Achille, as you mentioned. I'm a real estate agent here in Portugal, and I work with the brokerage Coldwell Banker. We are based in Lisbon, in Avenida de Roma. Especially, we are working on 2 segments, so residential and commercial properties. I don't know if you can show the slide, if I can. Okay, thank you. So we are working on that 2 segments, the residential and the commercial properties. Normally, people are looking for Portugal because of several reasons, right? As the weather and also the favorable tax that we have here in Portugal. And as you mentioned by my accent, I speak English, French, and also Portuguese. So foreigners are more likely to work with me, as I love also to help them as an immigrant here in Portugal. First, I'm going to present a bit Coldwell Banker, which is a huge brand here in Portugal. Coldwell Banker was founded in San Francisco in the United States in 1906, and which in Coldwell Banker we have 2 segments. We have the residential and normal segment, and also we have the global luxury segment, which is based in Cash. But we work with them because it's another segment who work a lot with the marketing and the networking. At Coldwell Banker, we are working with all the real estate brokerage here in Portugal and also in other countries. I'm going to focus my presentation on the housing market here in Portugal. And as Dr. Sandra already talked about the golden visa, I'm just going bit talk about that also. So first, I'm going to talk about the touristic industry here in Portugal. Due to the COVID-19, we faced a huge issue, and it was a big challenge. There are so many commercial property which were closed. But what we saw here in Portugal is that in January 2022, so this year, the tourists like surge a lot, and we have like more than 2 million overnight stays here in Portugal. We saw that more in the Porto. So based on the statistic and the number that I see, Porto was the main city where the tourist has grown a lot. Lisbon is the second, and Algarve is the third. Next, please. Thank you. So, as you know, residential segments are more dependent on the foreign market. But despite of that, the main opportunities here in Portugal on the real estate market are first the residential and also the commercial market. We have here, and also what I also suggest to my investors nowadays is that they can focus their investment on the student housing. We have a huge demand on people who are looking, most of the time in students, they are looking for apartment, rooms, and we don't have any availability at the moment. So investors can focus their research on that, and there are a huge return on investment. The second thing is the build to rent. People love to build and then sell directly. But the build to rent market is a booming market here, especially in Lisbon, where I am based. Build to rent market is a huge market. We have old building here in Lisbon, so many old buildings that are needed to be renovated in a great location that you can build and rent it. And the third opportunity in the real estate market here in Portugal is definitely the commercial market. Commercial with the Golden Visa program, yeah, is working. And commercial also in the main city, sorry. Okay, so the commercial real estate market is one of the booming market at the moment. During the COVID, it was really challenging for people who has commercial investment to get some return investment. But what we can see now is that almost like in our portfolio, everything that we have commercial is gone. For people who are looking for golden visa here in Lisbon, or for people, even simple investors here in Lisbon, we can have between 7 to 12 return on investment here in Lisbon. So, I don't know if you have some question for me. Sorry.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Achille, for your presence and sharing your thoughts with us. This gave us quite an understanding of the opportunities that Portugal offer in terms of golden visa as well as the rental market. Thank you so much. So yes, I would want to ask, what are your views about now that this golden visa program has brought some new changes since December? So do you see people inclining towards more of the interior regions as compared to the commercial or the urban properties, right?
So during the COVID-19, what we saw was that people was looking to go in the interior because they were looking for fresh air, green spaces, big space also, and looking to stay near to the beach, near to natural air, and which was so funny is that even after the COVID-19, people are still looking for that. So we have a huge demand of people looking to go in the interior of Portugal and going out of the main city. It seems like Lisbon, Porto, Algarve are staying like, no one wants to stay here. Only foreigners or all investors want to stay here. All the people who are living here in Portugal or in Lisbon, the main city, they want to go like outside. They want to have more space, like huge bedrooms, huge living room, garden, view on the beach directly. So they want to get up in the morning and have like, I have the beach near to me. So yeah, definitely even people who are looking for the golden visa, actually they are looking for the golden visa to invest first, but also they are thinking, okay, if after my 5 or 6 years, when I get the visa, I can come and stay in Portugal. So I want something that I can live there and be in peace. So definitely we are looking for interview.
Really makes sense because I'm sure you'll have a different kind of investors, clientele. For example, some asking for real estate as compared to venture capital fund. So, what do you think is more in demand since it's been now almost 3 months that we have this new policies in place? So, as per that, what do you think is more in conversation? What is the talk of the town? Is it real estate or the fund?
That's a good question. Actually, what I usually say to my clients is everything depends on the type of investor you are.
Yeah.
So depend on the risk that you want to take, right? So, and what I always suggest is that if you are a real investor and if you're really looking to invest only, you are not focused. Yes, you want the visa at the end of the day, the golden visa, but it's always good to diversify your investment. So you
Yeah.
have a portfolio with residential and also commercial property. So if you have that, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a very correct response. That I think
Yes.
yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
diversification plays its own important role, not just for the personal investors to invest, but also for the fund in itself. How diverse
Exactly.
the fund is, and what investors are looking for within the fund as well, right? So within real estate and within the fund, they have their
Hello.
own personal choices and personal interest depending on the yield, depending on the years that they want to put in, right? So,
Sheila,
Exactly.
I
Everything
have a
depends.
question as well. On that very note, now that Lisbon properties, habitational properties, residential properties are out of the question, right?
Mm-hmm.
And commercial properties, as we all know, historically
Mm-hmm.
have been valued from a valuation standpoint purely on the fact of income. Okay, so the new investors that are coming in into Lisbon and Porto, given the knowledge that, for example, office buildings, like they don't yield that much,
No.
so how is the kind of feel now, given that prior to this it was high yield kind of properties, but now with low yields, how will Portugal kind of compare to the world markets? So.
I mean, actually, it's funny with your question, and it's really great. Actually, yesterday I did a meeting with a client who is looking to invest in Portugal in commercial. So I made a market study for some offices here in Portugal to be built, really for the 350K. And what we found was the yield after all the math was between 7 to 8%, which was not like good as in the past, right?
Mhm.
Um, but at the same time, it was, I think people are not like discouraged by that fact. You know, they really want to get that visa at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So if they can still, I have investors here in Lisbon who has residential properties with 2% yield per year. And it's
Yes.
fun for them. You know,
Mhm.
so I think people really want, at the end of the day, they say, I want my visa and I want something real as a real estate, you know. So 5, 6%, 7% is always a good
Yeah.
yield. So
Okay. Very political answer, Ashil. But I
yeah.
get your feel. I get your feel. There is no right or wrong answer here.
Exactly, exactly. Everything depends on the person, right? Okay. For me, for example, I would love to be diversified. I cannot like put everything on one asset. I would
Yeah,
love to put in different assets. So I'm sure that I will get, if I don't get here a good yield, I can get there. So yeah.
absolutely. No, thank you so much. Back to you, Afsan.
Thank you.
thank you so much, Ashir, for being there. And now hold your seats and get ready for our next panelist, who is Cyrus Sethna, and who is a co-founder of EASA, a visa and immigration company based in Mumbai, India, founded in 2017. Cyrus has led EASA on a wide variety of visa and immigration cases, and he personally advises clients on their different immigration options. His main area of investment migration expertise lies with the Portugal Golden Visa program, although he has worked with several programs including Germany, Ireland, and Caribbean. He has experience in providing mobility consultations to several individuals who are chiefly of Indian origin, but also boards of variety of clientele across globe, including those of British, Singaporean, and Hong Kong origin. So, Cyrus, thank you so much for being here. The forum is all yours.
Thank you, Afsana. Thanks, Afsana, and thanks, Rahim, for having me here. Hello to all the panelists and everyone watching. Um, Thanks for the kind introduction as well. I think you've summed up perfectly well what I do and what my role is in Mumbai specifically. We have a lot of clients coming to us daily for visa requirements because as Indian passport holders, you need a visa to travel to almost every country in the world. And while advising so many clients on a daily basis, we realized the opportunity for wealthy Indian citizens to have a chance of a residency or citizenship. Given the fact that India doesn't allow dual citizenship, there are certain hurdles that we face, but by and large, the Portugal Golden Visa program seems to be that perfect spot for a lot of my clients. So when there is interest, not necessarily to migrate, but in general to have another option, Portugal is always at the top of the list of countries people choose to migrate to. I know Sandra has done a great job already on the Portugal Golden Visa process, and she's actually a lawyer. So when I get a client, eventually I always advise the clients that we work with a lawyer. I've never worked with Sandra actually, but um, I think she's done a fantastic job of covering everything. And my presentation will be quite similar, but probably just dive a little deeper into what the process is. This is what I sort of run all my clients through. So let's go. Starting off, I think the first thing that I always advise my clients on is the different options that we have. And by and large, there are a lot of options to get your golden visas. It's just not only the fund and property, but it kind of narrows down to that usually. So there is a discussion, and I'm obviously not vested with any fund or any property. So my job is to kind of share my entire network with my clients and help them make an informed decision based on what they like, what they feel comfortable with, and also what other clients of mine have done in the past, because I can always share experiences of that. Um, I do have connections with several lawyers in Portugal. Again, that's something I leave open to the clients, and I think the clients should always have that power in their hands to choose their fund, choose their lawyer. Um, After that, the first thing that would probably happen would be getting your NIF number. This is a tax number in Portugal. This typically, in my experience, I've seen can take up to about 2 weeks to obtain. Then the other part is setting up a Portuguese bank account. This can be done remotely. If you go and do it in Portugal, it can be much quicker, but there are ways of doing this remotely. However, there will be a little more legwork that's required for setting up a Portuguese bank account remotely. You'll need to get apostles and legalizations and things like that done. But again, in most cases, the lawyers will assist with this process, and with the power of attorney can get it done remotely. The next step that eventually happens is you transfer the funds to a Portuguese bank account. That's something that's obviously compulsory. Uh, Sandra has explained why you need to have a Portuguese bank account and how you can't transfer the funds directly to the property or into a fund. So that's the next step where you have to transfer the full amount of that you intend to invest. So if the minimum investment that you're making is 300,000, for example, or 500,000, you need to transfer the full amount. After which only then can you transfer the money into the fund or into the property or whatever you're investing in. And then there's an entire documentation that you start preparing for your online SCF application. Um, and we can get into that detailed sort of list later, but this is the tricky part, and this is where we always tell our clients to manage their expectations because documentation depends from person to person where they've lived, There are things like police clearance certifications and things like that, which um, are not always the most straightforward thing to do, especially if you've lived in multiple places. In the last year, you've been born somewhere else and you're currently residing somewhere else, so, and you hold a passport somewhere else. There are a lot of intricacies which obviously a good lawyer will sort of advise you on how to go about it. But this is the probably the trickiest part of the process, and that's what we've seen. Um, Finally, once all of that has been put together, your lawyers file an application. We like to call this as the pre-application. Um, this obviously is done only after you've made the full investment into your fund or your property, and you've got your property deed or you've got your certification from the fund that you've invested in the fund. And then after which you get invited for biometrics in Portugal. This is something that has really been delayed ever since the pandemic. A lot of my clients who specifically invested in funds last year around July and August have been lucky enough to get their approval, but they haven't gotten the invitation to do the biometrics. And as of now, I know that it's compulsory for you to visit Portugal
Right.
specifically to do your biometrics. I think a lot of the lawyers in Portugal are hoping that eventually we can have this process done outside
Yes.
Portugal, but I don't see that happening. Maybe I'm not too sure about how that's going to pan out, but that would be ideal.
Cyrus, I was
Um,
just wondering, sorry, I'm trying to jump in here, but I was just
yeah,
wondering, I am also from Mumbai, and
yeah.
I also talk to few investors, and they keep on asking one same question about how the fund can be transferred from India to, like, do you face any challenges, any hurdles, because now that we have the new the LRS scheme in place.
So apart from the dual citizenship thing, I think that the LRS, the yearly remittance of funds, is the biggest hurdle for Indian clients. That's where most of them slip up. As I mean, slip through my fingers, and they don't end up converting. It's because they can only transfer a maximum of $250,000 dollars a year. So that's extremely tricky. You When you're investing in a fund, as per Indian law, you can't split the investment between spouses, husband, wife, or your children. That's so you can't split the amount that's remitted. And that's primarily because when you invest in a fund in Portugal for your golden visa, there's no sort of the spouse's name is never going to be on the on that deed or whatever. It's only going to be in the actual investor's name. When investing in a property, that's slightly different. You can do the split. There are some chartered accountants in India who allow their clients to do this, and there are some chartered accountants who don't. But predominantly, an ideal scenario is that when you're able to split your investment between 2 financial years. So we have a couple of clients pushing the envelope and trying to meet a deadline of March 31st now, send some money out now, and then after that in April, send another bunch of money out. So that's one way of doing it. And the other way of doing it is that a lot of these clients are obviously high net worth individuals and they've earned money abroad. Some of them have had stints abroad and worked professionally abroad and have investments and things like that. So if there's a real desire from them, they figure out a way to get their money from abroad as well and send it into Portugal. So there are different ways, but you're absolutely right. This yearly remittance is usually work for all Indians.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It makes sense. Yeah, I think your explanation has done justice to my inquiry. So thank you so much for sharing that. And yes, now that we are running short of time, so I would like to, if you have any
Yeah.
last comments to make and last points to share before we move ahead with Rahim's presentation, please do so.
No, absolutely not. I think between all of us, I think we've covered everything, and we'd love to now hear about Rahim's fund, which obviously seems very exciting. I think that's the main thing we're all here for.
All right. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
So let's get to it. In just one second, I'll just go to the area where we have the discussion. So thank you very
Will
much,
you
guys, for
introduce you before you jump into
yeah.
sharing about the fund? Yes. All right. So let me introduce Rahim. I think all of you know him, but for the audience, let me share. that yes, he has launched a fund named 7X, which he'll be sharing about in this presentation. He is also the president and CEO of the Lakhani Group, which is a seasoned real estate investor that owns and operates multi-dollar portfolio of properties in Portugal, Canada, USA, and India. He holds a degree in engineering from University of Waterloo, Canada, and a postgraduate degree in real estate financing, taxation, investment from University of Lisbon. He has worked in several markets like Europe, America, Canada, and Asia, and he currently invests in the de-stress assets and restructuring of companies to an advanced level at the operational stages. So yes, Rahim, now you can start. Sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what I'll do is I'll give a brief introduction, but then I would really actually even make this into a conversation piece because we have the attention and time of several individuals. So very briefly, this is a family company. We've been in operations since 1983 and largely into the real estate development game. Originally from India and have done developments in Canada and in the US. And over the last 3.5, 4 years, we've been doing developments and some great work actually in Portugal. So we're quite happy, and it's true a joy to actually work with industry professionals like Dr. Sandra and Achille, and now joining hands with you, Cyrus, as well. So it's a pleasure, and every day it's an amazing joy that we get to work with some amazing individuals from all over the world. So I think truly Portugal is, Greenwich Mean Time as well, but I think it's central, and then it converges very well with the rest of the world. So very, very, very happy. From the Lakhani Group side, we have a very strong team on the board, including myself and my wife Afsana, who's leading our sales and immigration side, and Azima, who's my sister. She's on the compliance of the fund, and Karim Jiwani, who's the VP on accounts, and my brother-in-law as well. So very diverse backgrounds and very much international in its sphere. So this is actually very important when you are choosing a fund or a real estate asset that you are looking at investment. Please look at the developers and see what kind of backgrounds they have, and if they have international expertise or not. Because if COVID has shown us one thing, it has shown us one simple thing, that when it's everything is going up and up and up, we're all okay. But when things are shaky, the true resilience and the management team is what is needed to take some tough decisions to make sure that the boat is not rocked, right? So this is very important when you are choosing a fund, especially because you're literally handing over €500,000 to someone who you may not know personally. Okay, so so it's very important that you know their backgrounds, you know what kind of styles of investment they have, you know the way that they think in terms of making the investments. So very happy to schedule discussions and calls with anyone who wants to know more about the operations. Okay? Alongside, we also have a very strong supervisory board that consists of the four gentlemen displayed, and we're very happy to say that the combined experience on these folks is from the legal background, from the accounting background, from the audit background. They work with some amazing institutions and worldly recognized institutions. So this again, what makes up the confidence in the fund, because it's not only that you're investing $500,000 into a black hole, but also you have a strong board. Apart from the management board, you have a strong board who's ensuring that the money is being channeled into the right investments and making sure that the audit is performed to a level that it should be at a global world standard. In addition to that, we also have a very much international investment advisory board. So an investment advisory board is nothing but people who are actually representing people's investors' interest on the board. So all of these folks have varying backgrounds in Portuguese developments to developments in Dubai to the UK. We're adding a few more gentlemen onto the board with this kind of experience and expertise. So look out for that as well. And so again, this stresses where you are putting the money, and if this kind of team setup builds your confidence to channeling your investments into the right channels. Okay, so and then what I'll do is I'll just go to discuss some of the things about the fund itself, where the fund is actually going to be investing. We call it 7X. The fund is targeted towards hospitality, student housing, and luxury villa communities. And this is the three areas that we have chosen for 7X to invest in. And the criteria is also given of where. One of the things that we take great pride in our dealings is actually the kind of assets that we pick in Portugal, and the kind of investments that we have been able to do. So really, I think the way that we pick is you make money during the acquisition stage, but you make money during the maintenance stage, and then in the exit as well. So really, I think there is not just two areas, which is what most funds look at. Operational stage, get a little bit of dividend and revenue, and then exit out in the 7-year period. We focus very much so on the acquisition stage. So our rejection rate for the type of investments is probably over 95-96% in terms of what kind of assets are being presented to us. So we are very, very much fine-tuned on the selection of assets for our investors. Okay. And as a snapshot, this is a 25 million euro fund, minimum of 500,000 if one likes to make an investment into the golden visa regime. We charge a 1% asset management fee, which is very comparable to anyone else in the fund. But more importantly, it's a hurdle rate that is presented. So it's a 30% hurdle rate over the 7-year period. And then anything beyond the 30% is a 70-30 split in the favor of the investor. So what I mean by that is if we have not delivered the returns over the 7-year period on 30% minimum, we don't make any money. Okay, so investor first is always our attitude, and that is what we take great pride in, is to make sure that the investors always win. Now, just to kind of close, a final slide I want to present here is actually what works for the fund. I believe it was maybe in Sandra's slide, if I'm not mistaken. It's when you invest in a fund, you have your profits in the end of the fund, which is fully exempt, even if you're a corporate or an individual. You also have, if you have a pension, let's say, and you've invested from there, it's at a 10% income tax if you are into an NHR scheme. So from a fund perspective, from a perspective of being in Portugal, there are quite a lot of benefits. It is not a tax haven. Portugal is not a tax haven, but there are a lot of regulations that are favoring the investors, at least today. Okay, at least today, there are a lot of the ways and methods, especially like the fund, and there are others for real estate as well, but like the fund, the government has made laws that are favorable for investments, and we don't know how long these things will last. Every law, every mechanism comes with a certain time period. So if the time is now for some of these investments to be made, but who knows how the next year will be. So if you are looking to do a plan B for your future and your family's future with the least amount of stress, I would say the fund is the right choice to make. Okay, so that's it. Back over to you, Afsan.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Rahim, for sharing with us about the fund. And yes, we do have few questions from the audience, but if any of the panelists would want to go ahead and inquire about the fund, we can have a last 5-minute discussion here. Achille is smiling, so I don't know if you have any thoughts about it.
I mean, just the last sentence of Rahim, when he said that he think that if you are thinking about your future, you should invest in the fund. That's why I was a bit concerned, because also I'm thinking as with the age, right? And also people who are coming to me as investors, but not only investors, are only thinking about that. Like, what should I do in 5 or 6 years? So I'm going in the same with Rahim, and I think that investing in the fund is quite a good idea. Yeah, definitely.
Maybe I don't know if I should add something that is
Absolutely.
worrying me, has been worrying me. And when we're talking about other investments, specifically funds, and when the goal is to apply for citizenship, it's important to have a residency in Portugal. And our advice to our clients has been, at least on the second renewal, when you get to the second renewal of the golden visa, it would be good to get residency in Portugal it can be rented out. So to have an address, that's what I'm saying, in Portugal, that will help us when applying for citizenship, because the certificate from the immigration that will state that, you know, the client was 5 years resident in Portugal will have that address, the last one that we inform the immigration, and it will help on the citizenship application. That is something that we need to be a little bit aware of when following the funds investment route. This is only to help when we're dealing afterwards with the citizenship application. That has been one of our advices.
I think we lost Afsana there. Can you hear Afsana?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. No, I have a couple of questions actually, even for Dr. Sandra here, while we have you. So we have the clear indication here. You know, we have one of the slides also about real estate comparison directly with the fund.
Taxes.
But this is the question that keeps coming up when it comes to mortgaging properties in relation to assets, and how is CEF looking at for mortgages? So if you can highlight something on that.
Well, the law is very clear, and it's always so complicated to explain to clients. What the law states is that we can mortgage. The amount of the mortgage has to be the above of the minimum investment. Let's say, if we're talking about a property that is more than 500,000 euros, a regular property in Lisbon, if it's tourism, whatever, it's possible to get a mortgage on the above, on the amount, the remaining amount. But the problem is the law states the mortgage amount. Now, the mortgage amount is not the same as a loan amount. The loan itself is always lower because the mortgage is always calculating with at least 3 years of penalties, interest, there's a formula to calculate. And it really depends, of course, of each bank, because each bank has different loans, penalty commissions. So everything has to be, so when depending on the bank, you will have a different information. And what is important is to always get to what is the mortgage amount for that specific loan that you are talking about. So in practical terms, if you're buying a 600,000 property and you have 500,000, the truth is, and this is not logic, because the law states that in cash you have to advance the 500,000. But the problem is how the law was, what is stated in our immigration law, and it states that you can mortgage, but the mortgage amount has to be it's the mortgage and not the loan amount that is in our immigration law. So that means the client will not have the possibility of asking a loan of 100,000. It has to be less in order to the mortgage amount, the calculation formula then it falls under those 1,000. And the reason is the 500,000 cannot be mortgage or have any liability. So if they ask for a loan of 100,000, the mortgage amount, calculation of what has to guarantee that specific loan of 100,000 will have to be more, like 120, 130,000. So it goes, those 30,000 will go under the, over those 500,000 cash, and it loses the,
that makes sense. That makes sense. No, this question has kept being in circles, and I think there is no straight answer sometimes. But I think logic beats everything else. So,
well, the law states what it states. We don't agree in many things in the law. It's what is in the law. Unfortunately, it doesn't make sense. I understand. I think when they created the law, they forgot this detail. But the fact is that the immigration will follow. What the law states.
Cyrus, I have a question for you. Actually, it's to the fact that there were recent changes actually in the EB-5 law, and I know your firm focuses on a broad spectrum, not just Portugal. I'm thinking it focuses on a broad spectrum. I don't know if you offer EB-5 or not, but maybe you heard this in the news. Maybe you can kind of highlight, because EB-5 is like 800,000 versus or 900,000 versus the Portuguese investment route, which is 500. So how is it? And we know for a fact that there are a lot more Indian investors that are out there for EB-5. So there is kind of a conversation that's happening in these investment circles, on this. And then what's your take on it going forward?
Yeah, good question. So the EB-5 is the original hot topic when it comes to investment migration, especially for Indians and in India. So it's a bit of a rocky system in America and the immigration, and it has been over the last 5 years. The program has always been something that's not as straightforward as the Portuguese program, in the sense that you're usually investing in a business or a project. That business and project needs to be churning out a certain amount of profits, employing at least 10 American citizens, and you can't earn any yield on your investment. You can get your money back, and that's a big maybe, but you can't earn anything on your investment. In terms of the immigration aspect of it, it's again something that's really difficult to predict. You can get something called a provisional green card, which can take about 6 years, and that's just a provisional green card, and then you need to meet a residency requirement and use that green card, pay US taxes, and then after a long road of about 10 to 15 years, you could consider getting an American passport. So I don't know why it's still that popular, but America always has been, and I get a ton of inquiries. My mom's actually a US immigration lawyer. She's been in the business for the last 25 years. So she handles most of these EB-5 cases that come my way. But it's interesting. It's interesting as to why people are still so inclined towards the US. Right now, it's about $800,000 of an investment in backward areas, in more rural areas in the US, and 1.5 million urban areas. So it's a substantial investment to make when it's not really an investment and not really secure. It's a bit strange, according to me, and I get a bit frustrated when I can't convert them for Portugal.
Wait,
but it is what it is.
You can make the investment while you're waiting also, like 200 every year, and then it 4-year process or 6 years process, and then you reach.
No, it's a straight up investment, like Portugal.
Investment. So
Yeah.
somehow there must be some exception, no? Like that to transfer funds or something. Like, it's crazy how that is such a popular option, and it still seems to be, so
so many people are doing it for their children, because the US, obviously, I mean, whatever it's leading itself into, it's still got great educational institutions, and good job opportunities after that. So the people are doing it for their kids.
Absolutely.
So interesting.
No,
Because I hear the opposite all the time, from US to Europe, and thinking about children as well. But that's
Exactly.
more. So I hear it all the time, but that is again for other issues, and I would say the number one is political reasons.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a question for you. Actually, is during your work with CB, I think you also come across many diverse nationalities, and so post these changes, what has been kind of the flavor from this kind of multiple different backgrounds that are coming through, like. If you can maybe give that context on what's Coldwell Banker's perspective, I would say, in terms of 2022.
You mean nationality on coming for the golden visa
For the
in
Golden Visa
Portugal?
specifically, yeah.
Okay, based on what we have here, we can say that most of the nationality are Singaporean and
Mm,
American, which
okay.
is completely different from what we get last year's. But I don't know what is happening, but American people
Okay.
are coming like it's crazy.
Crazy,
Maybe it's
crazy.
political also, maybe.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
but they are coming. Like,
so what you're telling me is that people are going and buying the American passports and then giving up the American passports to come to Portugal.
totally. I think so. I think so.
Well,
But they really want to stay here. They are coming.
oh
All
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moving. Yes.
right. There is a lot of movement. People are never happy where they are.
No,
Yeah.
never.
That's our nature.
That's it. All right, Afsana, any questions we have from the audience and stuff?
No, not as of now. And thank you so much. Actually, we are little ahead of the time that we aimed for. So I think it's time to close the webinar. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here, for the audience to have listened to us. And I hope it was an insightful and educational webinar for all of us. So thank you so much for being there.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
the
very much.
invitation.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Take care. Bye-bye.